Edoardo Guidali. Welcome to the Dear Souls podcast. What ignites your energy to do what you do on a daily basis?
Hi, Jacqueline, and thank you for having me.
You're
So,
welcome.
as a communication coach that helps family and couples, my motivation really comes from seeing couples and families develop, solving their issues, and just seeing them learning about each other's in a way that they couldn't imagine before. This is pretty strong motivation for me. That's what gets me up in the morning, and I really love it.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So, if you could tell the audience, what part of the country are you in?
Yes, I'm in Europe. I live in Switzerland, in the city of Zurich.
Ooh, that sounds so beautiful. Nice. So, what inspired you to transition from a corporate career in management and economics to becoming a communication expert focused on families and couples?
All right, that's a good question. It all started a couple of years ago. A couple of years ago, I was having several issues with my family. I had issues with my family all over my life, but in the last 2 years, 2 years ago, those issues were really magnified. We were going through a difficult time for all of us. My grandfather was in the hospital and soon after he would die. So it was quite a stressful period for all of us. And in periods of stress, issues tend to be magnified in every relationships. So I was going through the recovery from an autoimmune disease called multiple chemical sensitivity, which was very debilitating for me. I suffered a lot and the path to recovery was very long. And during this time, I came to the realization that I wanted to do something different than working in the corporate world. I wanted to do something for myself. At the time, I still didn't know what that would, how that would look like. But one day the inspiration came. It was during this difficult time with my family that I had the crazy idea, why don't we sit down, all of us at the table for the first time since I can remember, and we try to work out our issues. You can imagine, Jacqueline, that it wasn't very well received, the idea.
Yeah.
Luckily, everybody agreed, but everybody was very reluctant. I
Mm,
still remember my sister saying to me, Eduardo, this is going to be a complete catastrophe.
yeah.
My mother told me the idea is very nice, but I don't see how it's going to work. So we started this family meeting with lots of positivity, I would say.
Mm, yeah.
Very good expectations, lots of positivity. Of course, I'm ironic here, but I found myself in the role of moderator of this family meeting because I was the one proposing it. And I started seeing how we started to communicate for the first time. I started liking being the moderator, and I was able to help my sister, my father, my mother to see different perspectives because everybody in a family or in a relationship has a different perspective, and most of the times we are not aware of that.
Right.
And so I started seeing some progress. And after the first meeting, which I call reunion, family reunion, I decided, why don't we do this again? Because I think I'm onto something. I think that things are getting better, even if by a little bit.
Right.
And so we started having these family reunions once a week for months. And I have always been the moderator of these family meetings. And to my surprise, we improved so much as a family. We started understanding things from each other that we would have never imagined. And we improved so much as a family that I can quote what my mother said once. She said, I cannot believe how much we have done during these family meetings, and I feel like I'm living a fairy tale now because she
Wow.
was truly shocked. Like many times we think that people and situations are set in stones. There is
Yeah.
nothing that we can do. Like we tried for years or decades, nothing worked.
Right.
And so when we started seeing what these family meetings were doing for us, we were very happy. After 10 years, we went on our first vacation together. Now, after
Wow.
10 years, we went together to Paris for a week, and it was an amazing vacation. And, it sounds simple, it sounds stupid, but for us, it was an incredible achievement because we
Right.
never thought, we can be in an airplane all together. We can, share in a hotel room. I mean, me and my sister, of course, and spending a whole week together. And so I started really enjoying doing these family meetings. And I thought, I really want to do this for other people because, I see so many families who have given up since years or decades. And I also see so many beautiful couples that fall apart for the wrong
Yeah.
reasons because they are not able to really talk in their
Yeah.
relationships. And I got inspired from my personal situation with my family. And I decided this is what I want to do in my life. I want to help people get to the same place where I am at with my family and to do the same for their relationships because I really think that we don't communicate enough nowadays. We
Hmm.
never learned communication, they don't teach that in school. And more often than not, people just leave the room or don't even want to have the conversation because they don't know where to start. It's so painful. So this is my story. This is how I came about the idea of helping other families as a family coach. And this is what I do every day.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that story. And it's funny because a lot of us go through these same, family challenges trying to, communicate certain things. And it could be something so simple that based on where the person is in their, in their mental health or, whatever state they're in and their perspective, it could throw a simple question or a simple conversation so off. And I've noticed that with my own family. I've had to do a lot of my own inner work spiritually and everything to be able to start seeing the transformations also in my husband and people around me. But I do see like in other family dynamics where things become so difficult because like you said, we in school, they don't give us communication skills at all. This is something that should be implemented in the schools because it's huge. If you don't know how to communicate, how can you even have a simple conversation or even ask a question without it being taken the wrong way? There are different dynamics. And now I've tapped into a teaching. It's called Kabbalah, and it's pretty much universal. I don't know if you've heard of it. And it gives you these tools, very very simple tools to understand why we're here, why we go through like dark times, how to handle those dark times in a better light, how to connect to the light of God,
Mhm.
all these really amazing things. And, with all the work that I've been doing myself for the last 2.5 years, this has just been like the confirmation. This has been like the topping on the cake of, yep, you've been on the right path. Now here are the tools to complete, the journey of really being able to communicate effectively, not react in a negative way when there's a situation happening. It kind of like helps you to use really powerful tools. And one of those tools that might even, might encourage you to help in your family coaching is you pause, you take a breath, and you say how wonderful life is. You kind of look at the positive. You're plugging into the light of the creator in that moment. So it kind of gives you that moment to reflect and say, okay, how am I going to react? in this situation. So it's kind of cool what you're doing, because it took for you to go through your sickness, to go through, seeing how your family was not connecting, wasn't communicating, you guys were not, together really. And then you took the initiative, which you are very brave and courageous, because I know for me and my family dynamic, the Spanish culture is so hard to sit down at a table and be able to have at least one person listen to you without telling you you're an idiot, you're stupid, you don't know what you're talking about. That's not the reality in life. So for me to be able to understand where you're at, because I've gone through my own transformation, and I'm little by little seeing my family transform. And then you're taking the courage to do what you do now on a daily basis, and that's your passion. I congratulate you on that, because I think it's so beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. This is why I do what I do. I love connecting with like-minded people, people that I have gone through their own transformations, and now they're doing things to help humanity evolve, and give them simple tools. They just have to implement them. It's not a what is it? One thing fix it all. It's you got to do the work. You got to do the work. You got to do your part. So thank you for that. So now, can you elaborate on the framework you've developed to enhance communication and resolve misunderstandings in relationships?
Yeah, absolutely. I developed this framework from my own experience with my family and also with working with other people. No, everybody is different, and of
Mm-hmm.
course, you need to take a tailored approach to different people because
Correct.
different people, different relationships need different things. But overall, there are a set of techniques, a set of communication skills that are universal
Mm-hmm.
and that can benefit anyone. And without this, it's really hard to have a good conversation or to work through an issue. So, the first thing that I usually do when working with a client, when working with family, with a couple, is to manage their expectations.
Right.
It's extremely important to manage people expectations because we run away from issues every day. But when we sit down at the tables, more often than not, we have the unrealistic expectation of solving everything
Mm-hmm.
in one sitting. In
Yeah.
one sitting. And but that's not the case because, as I explain it to my clients, communication is a muscle rather than a skill that you possess or you don't. And in most cases, the communication muscle is very weak because you
Mm.
never communicated in a healthy way all of your life.
Right.
So you needed to be patient and you cannot pretend to, solve problems that have accumulated over the past decade or past few decades in one afternoon. So
Mm.
this is extremely important. And it's very important because it calms down my clients because of course they come with expectations, they come maybe with some stress, they're afraid of what could happen. And so this is very important. The second tool that I use in this framework is to make clear that the intention of the meeting is a positive one. So, what I mean is that rather than approaching this family meeting or session with your partner with the spirit, okay, I'm going to tell the person in front of me whatever they have done wrong
Right.
and how much I'm right, I suggest my clients to switch perspective and to set a positive intention. So instead of trying to prove someone wrong, what about we work all together for the well being of the family? This is what the meeting is about. Because many times people feel attacked because,
Yeah.
someone tells them, you have done this wrong, you hurt me in this way. And what happens is that when we face a conversation with this intention, it's like we are pointing a gun
Yeah.
to the other person. And when someone has a gun on their face, they are probably not going to react in the best way. So they are going to be on the defense, they are going to adopt a defensive behavior. And this is not conducive to healthy communication. But when you set a positive intention and you say, we are here because we want to work on the well being of our family, and the person who is saying this might say, I'm here because I want to work on our problems and I want to understand what I'm doing wrong that is hurting you, that is hurting the family, if there is something that I'm doing wrong. So I suggest my clients to approach this meeting bringing a white flag,
Okay.
rather than a gun to a fight. And in this way, you can create a safe place where people feel safe to talk. They don't feel attacked,
Mm-hmm.
and they think, hmm, that's interesting. This person in front of me doesn't want to attack me like in the past, but he wants to know what they did wrong. And more often than not, when you take this approach in your relationship, the person in front of you, the person you are saying all of these things to, they will open up to you in a way that you would have never imagined. And they will try as well to find their faults. And
Mm.
from this place, the relationship can grow. The third tool of this framework is extremely important, and it's about creating a safe place. It's important that one person at a time speaks. So I know that you can relate to this very well,
Yeah.
Justine, with your, you told me that you have a family of Spanish origins, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
I come from Italy. I can relate a little bit. We tend to interrupt each other very often. As
All the
soon as
time.
we hear something that we don't like, we start interrupting the other person because, we didn't like what we heard.
Right.
Sometimes this can be fun, it can make us laugh. But when we want to talk about relationship and family issues, we need to give the people that we're talking to space. Because many times these issues are not easy to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
We struggle. That's why we keep avoiding the subject, right?
Oh,
If
yeah.
it were that easy, we would have already talked about it. But it's difficult. It causes us pain, it causes us suffering, and it's not easy to talk about. We need to respect the person who's talking right now, and we need to give them time, whether it's 2 minutes, or whether it's 5 minutes, whether it's 15 minutes. And this is extremely important because not everybody has a clear idea about how they are feeling about a situation, how they are feeling about an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they need time to elaborate. Many people are also shy. Not everyone has a more direct communication style.
Right.
Some people have a very aggressive communication style. Some people struggle to say their opinion. So we want to give space to everyone in order to feel heard. And most importantly, we want to learn how to listen
That
because
is huge. That is so big. A lot of us just want to talk and don't want to listen. And it's like there's power in staying quiet, opening your ears, and just listen. Just listen. And don't be in your head trying to see how you're going to, respond. It's literally actively listening to the person because you care. You can respond later. Just focus on what they're saying because they're human beings. It's important. You got to value them, value their where they're at, their opinions. oh, their feelings, their mindset, wherever they're at in their life. And I think that's huge. I know that for me it has been, 'cause for me being such a little firecracker. I always wanted my voice to be heard, and when it wasn't heard, I was like, speaking louder, and that's what I grew up, hearing, all the time. Everybody's speaking louder and speaking over each other, and it's funny how a lot of us do that, and now I've learned to just pause and listen, and man, there's power in that pausing and listening. Huge power.
I absolutely agree, Jacqueline.
Yeah.
Listening is so important, and you have no idea how so many people, probably you have an idea, about how so many people don't feel heard.
Mm.
Because when someone in front of you is just thinking about what they want to say next, we can understand that, like body language, body communication. I think it's the majority of communication. So if you're just there and you're waiting to say what you want to say, regardless of what I'm trying to tell you, I can see that. And I'm
Exactly.
not going to feel heard. I'm not going to feel appreciated. And I'm going to I'm going to feel like I'm being taken for granted by you. And so this is important. So we want to practice what I call active listening. And a good synonym for that is learning.
Mm.
Listening means learning. Because what I always say to my clients is that when it comes to families, relationships, friendships, you don't have all the pieces of the puzzle. Many times we make the assumptions that we do have all the pieces of the puzzle, that we do understand what's
Mm.
going on, why the other person is behaving in that way. Like we are most of the times the victim of all
Yeah.
of that, of course.
Yeah.
We did nothing wrong, of course, and we are absolutely right. But this is a myth. This is a myth that needs to be busted because we don't have all the pieces. Here I am, Edoardo, and here you are, Jacqueline, and we are different people. And you come from a different life experience, maybe a different culture. That's the case for cross-cultural families. We come from different value systems, different belief systems. We experienced probably different traumas, if we
Mhm.
experienced traumas at all. So it's very important to spend the time to listen and understand what the other person is saying. Also, asking a question is very useful. Having a beginner mindset. So this is why listening is so important. I have another tool which is very, very powerful. So whenever you want to work on solving issues with your partner, husband, family, and you want to have one of these family reunions or relationship meetings, it's extremely important to prepare yourself psychologically and to set a date and time. So you don't want to come home in the evening and out of the blue saying, look, I listened to this communication expert on Jacqueline's podcast, and now I wanted to talk about our problems.
Yeah, that's not good.
The intention is very good, and
Yeah.
I'm happy if you start thinking in this way. But you need to take into consideration that, someone might have had a bad day,
Hmm.
so it might not be the appropriate moment. You might catch people off guard. One strategy that we use avoid talking about problems is thinking that we don't have problems, in the
Hmm.
relationship or in the family. It's being in denial. If you go home Some people might even think, where does this come from? I didn't know we had the problems.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important to, approach the subject like we have issues in our family. We want to work on them, but let's find a day and a time which suits everybody so that everybody can prepare themselves psychologically. This is very important. I always make the example of running a marathon. You know,
Mm-hmm.
if you want to run a marathon and you want to invite, your friend to run a marathon with you, and that person is not fit, you're not going to go to him the morning, the day of the marathon in the morning and tell him, let's go, we have a marathon to run today.
Yes.
Psychological preparation is very important. And many people just needed to think, oh my God, like, do we have problems? What did I do? What's causing these? It's very important. And maybe my last suggestion would be, and this is what I do with my clients, limit the sessions, the meeting time.
Mm.
Because, as communication is a muscle, you don't want to overdo it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like starting working out in the gym for the first time after 10 years of sedentary life.
Yeah.
You don't want to work out for 6 hours on your first day.
You'll kill yourself. You kidding me? You won't be able to walk for days.
You're
Yeah.
going to get the opposite effect of
Exactly.
what you wanted to. So make it short, 1 hour and a half, 2 hours. That's what I do, and recover from that.
Hmm.
Take a week. Don't
It
talk
it
about it
is
for a
there. I'm
while.
sorry. Is there a technique within those, like, let's say hour, let's say I decide, okay, I'm gonna have a conversation with my husband. We set a date and time. If the conversation starts going in the route of it getting heated, one person getting upset and things getting a little agitated, is there a tool, something that is, okay, let's pause right now, let's breathe? Is there something that you use in your coaching that says, wait a second, let's do this before we keep going? Or do you say, okay, maybe this is the time to stop, maybe this was enough for today? Or how do you tell your clients if it gets really heated, what to do in that moment?
Absolutely, that's a very good question. The answer is it depends. Because for many people, no matter how long the meeting is, the conversation might get heated in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't make sense to stop the session just because of that. So my suggestion is that if you have a family member that gets very heated, very nervous, very out of control during these conversations, I would suggest practice listening to this person in a mindful way. So it's very important to acknowledge, okay, this person is really having troubles with this topic. It's
Mm-hmm.
causing a lot of suffering, a lot of pain. Okay, let's try to understand. Second of all, we should state our intention,
Mm-hmm.
because most of the times conversation get heated
Mm-hmm.
because we feel like we are fighting
Right.
rather than communicating. We're fighting. So when you fight, you try, you go into that adrenaline full modality, you are explosive, you're trying to prevaricate, you're trying to dominate the other person.
Right.
But when we restate our intention, look, we are here to understand what's wrong. I'm here to understand what I'm doing wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so sorry that this situation is causing you pain.
Mm.
All of these are therapeutic sentences
Yeah.
that calm the person in front of you.
Right.
You
They're like
know?
soothing techniques, yeah. Like, for instance, like when, and my husband and I, we're I mean, we've done so much work, and the last year has been incredible. The transformation, especially with communicating, because that was always so difficult. We're two strong headed Capricorns that, we want our voices to be heard and all these things. And one of the things that we found that helps is that when we're going to go into a conversation, let's say I'm sharing something and all of a sudden he wants to kind of give me his feedback or give me, oh yeah, maybe this, I'll be like, wait, hold on a second. Right now, I just want to share. I don't want any feedback. I don't want, for you to say anything. I just want you to listen. So that's one of the things that we're implementing more and more, where we ask, hey, do you just want me to listen to you? Do you want some feedback? What do you need from me right now in this conversation? And sometimes I pause and I think and I breathe and I'm like, I just want to be able to just express myself the best way that I can, and I don't need any feedback right now. And then that gives him the key to be like, okay, she just wants me to listen. So it's helped a lot, because I know that there's been times where, I'm sharing and then he wants to kind of be the fixer in that moment, and I'm like, I don't need you to fix me. I don't need you to tell me what to do. I don't need anything right now besides your ears, and vice versa. It goes both ways. So it has helped a lot. That's the technique that you have. It's pretty much similar. It's the intentions. So you're setting the intention before or during, again, during that conversation time. That's pretty
Right,
cool.
and this is one of the many things that you can do. As you
Mm,
said, sometimes we just need to listen to the other person, and we don't want them to fix us. And what happens is that most of the time, when we hear someone who is struggling,
mm,
and we get a brilliant idea of how to help them, we want to just jump in the conversation and tell them. And again, the intention here is noble, because you want to help the other person. But what I work with my clients is to teach them, okay, despite how much you want to jump in the conversation now, it's your turn to listen. At the end, when this person is done, that just keep this thought on the side, and you're going
hmm.
to be able to help them, because
Right,
interruptions are very painful, for healthy communication.
right, right.
And another important message that I try to teach as much as possible to my clients is that they need to make a decision in their relationship and in their family. They need to decide whether they want to be right or they want to be happy.
Yes, yes. I love that saying. I love it. My old boss, she used to tell me that all the time, every day. She's like, "Do you rather be happy or do you rather be right?" And that just, it was so powerful. Wow, you used that. That's awesome.
It's so powerful, and it's really great in relationships and in families, because it's not about you per se. It's about the relationship. It's about the family. And when you want to be right at all costs, you start, you know, playing the victim. You start not listening and learning from the other person. But when, also from a spiritual point of view, when you put aside the need to be right
Mm-hmm.
or your ego, you know,
Mm-hmm.
me, that voice inside your head that says, like, we need to show them that we are right. When you do this, you shift your focus to the well-being of the relationship, and you become humble, and you start thinking, okay, I never really listened to this person in front of me, so I want to start right now. And this is extremely important. I had a client, for example, who was almost literally like a ticking bomb, and I could see her. Every time that someone else was talking, I could see in her eyes that she just wanted to say something
Mm-hmm.
and to jump into the conversation. And one of the reasons why people act like these has a little bit to do with what you said before, about your family, that the more you don't feel heard, higher is going to be
Yeah.
your voice. You are going to, shout more, be more aggressive,
Yep.
because, at the end of the day, when you're practicing that kind of communication, it's like the stronger or the louder person is the one
Hmm.
who wins in the end.
And that is not always the case. Actually, when you're louder, people don't even hear you at all. That's
Yeah,
what I found.
you're
And I
actually
was like,
losing.
you're losing.
You're
You're
actually
completely
losing
losing. And
at a
that's
different
hard.
scale.
That's really hard to do because a lot of us, especially feisty people like myself, gotten better. We just want to say what's on our mind. We want to be heard. We just say things that sometimes make no sense because we're not stopping to literally figure out what is it that I'm truly wanting to convey in this conversation and elaborate on what I'm going through. We're just kind of sometimes talking out of our asses, because we've never been hurt. So we're just going to say whatever to see if maybe something will stick. It doesn't work. That kind of communication does not work at all. And I'm sure you've seen that. I'm sure that you've seen so many different challenges that you've observed with, different clients that you've had. And that's where I wanted to kind of go into really quickly. What are those common communication challenges that you've observed with different family dynamics and couples and stuff like that? So, what have you observed?
Yeah, absolutely. There are definitely many challenges that people face in relationships. I have to say that most of the challenges come from a particular fear. To the core, there is the fear of being abandoned. It's not always conscious, but we develop this instinct because as human beings we are supposed to live in a group. That's very clear, when we are born, when we are babies. Babies cannot make it on their own, they need their parents. They are going to stick with them. So in relationships many times there is this root fear of being abandoned. And because of that, we try to avoid issues. Many times I see that people are scared because, certain dynamics, certain topics might make the other person feel very, very uncomfortable.
Right.
And so many people try to simply avoid these subjects. A little bit is out of a fear of
Mm-hmm.
the person reaction.
Right.
Um, the little bit is because we think we are protecting them.
Mm-hmm.
We think that we are protecting them, but the reality is that we are not protecting them. We are just reinforcing all of these underlying problems.
Right.
So that's why it's extremely important to create a safe place where you can talk.
Okay.
And in order to address these fears, like, is my husband going to leave me if I'm going to say this? Or,
Mm-hmm.
just imagine that you come from a family of doctors, like your father was a doctor, your grandfather was a doctor, and so on and so forth. And
Right.
everyone expects you to follow that path. And since you were little, they have been telling you you should become a doctor, you would make everybody so proud. That child is going to grow up knowing that if he does something different, it's going to be a huge disappointment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So this is one of the examples, like that
Yeah.
you find in family dynamics.
Yeah.
This
If
is
I could intersect really quick and add to that, they become people pleasers.
absolutely.
That's one that I've noticed very, very much.
Absolutely. People pleaser, it's a part that is in each one of us, whether it's very, very big or very, very little, we all have it. And it's a part that is trying to protect us. So in the case of the child who is raised to be a doctor, The people pleasing part is saying to this person, you need to be a doctor because you don't want to disappoint your dad, your
Mm-hmm.
grandfather, and you want to make them happy. So these are, some root causes that generate problems in relationships, and how to address them. It's both easy and at the same time difficult because it requires a shift in perspective. So let's talk about family dynamics. Many times we see that in many families, love is not unconditional. So always making the example of the doctor family. In that case, the child grows up understanding that love is conditional on becoming a successful doctor. And this is what the child learns. But the point is that we wanted to shift from an unconditional love perspective to an
Right.
unconditional love perspective from a conditional one. The point is that what I teach to all my clients is that love, and I'm happy to see that it's also written in big letters in your
Yep.
room, love is present in all families. Many families say, there is no love here. I disagree. You might not feel like there is love in your family, but at the core of a family there is always love. Most of the times, you know uh, we talk about generational patterns. Let
Yeah.
me explain this with the example of the doctor family. The reason why the father decided to be a doctor was probably because his father and his grandfathers were doctors, and he didn't
Mm-hmm.
want to disappoint them. Maybe
Right.
he didn't want to be a doctor, maybe he wanted to be an engineer or a musician, but he didn't do it because he was afraid to disappoint
Right.
his family. And many times there are these generational patterns that go on and on and on. But the point is that the father loves his child unconditionally, but he is just trapped in this perspective because he grew up in a very unhealthy family. So when I work in these situations with the clients, I ask them very directly, I mean, do you love your son no matter what happens? It's a very direct question.
Yeah.
It's a yes or no question. Either you know it or not.
Right.
And all the times, 100% of the times, they say, yes, I will always love my son despite whatever they do, whether, you know, they choose a path that I don't like, whether they become drug addicts. And that's what we see all the
It
times
is.
in families with drug addicts. Like they might see their children on the streets, and of course, they still love them despite all the choices that they make. The
Right.
problem is that we don't make this clear in our relationships, that we
Yeah.
don't say that enough, you know? We
Enough
keep
or
it
at
to
all.
ourselves.
Sometimes we
Or
don't
at
even
all.
say it.
We don't say it at
Yeah.
all. I always hear that people don't say it because they think it's implicit. But
Mm-hmm.
it's not implicit. It's like in a relationship, it's important always to show affection to your partner because it's part of the relationship. Like we drink and eat every day or almost every day, we need also to keep renovate this affection. So an important part the most critical part to solve issues and really put away for good these fears is to communicate to the other person that you love them unconditionally, no
I
matter
agree.
who they are, no matter what they become. And this is also something that I see very often in adult relationships. People who might get together because they are in the same social environment, because they have the same living standard, like wealth, they can afford, like the same things, and many times this dictates the choice. And what I challenge my clients with is that, now you got to know each other. You were at this point, for example, financially, socially, but the point is that would you still like love each other if all of these things were taken away from you? Like if someone loses their jobs or their part in society, this is what conditional love
Mm,
is. Unconditional love is all about.
right.
Many times, all these problems that stem from fear they originate because we don't have these conversations with each other. We
True.
might assume in our head, she is with me or he is with me just because I had all of these achievements. And if I
Mhm.
don't keep up with these standards, I'm not going to be anymore the person they fell in love with.
Yeah,
And this is a huge fear. This is a huge fear that
it is.
uh, in most cases is is unfounded. There is no basis for it. In some
I
cases,
agree.
there might be a basis from it, and that this is like the clarity that you can get from healthy communication that might make you think, okay, if I don't make a lot of money, like this person doesn't care about me, I don't want to be with someone like that. I want to be with someone that truly loves me, truly appreciates me. So,
Hmm.
it's important to have this conversation, no? As early as possible. No? But,
I agree.
if you know that there is a love in your relationship, in most of the cases, having this conversation is going to be very easy and super powerful, super
Mm,
reassuring. Because like, we put a lot of stress on ourselves, especially today. I see so many kids that want to get the best grades and they want to graduate from the best universities and to get the best jobs, because otherwise they want to meet their special someone. So they are, you know putting a lot of conditions on finding someone that truly appreciates them and truly loves them. So you put a lot of stress on yourself, and that's not healthy. And this is where healthy communication can make a drastic impact on your life and to take away all of the stress there's a father, a son, a daughter, a husband you put yourself through for so many years,
mhm.
and you can land on the next phase of your relationship. You can start
Yeah,
to be more authentic, and you can move towards who you truly are rather than the person who you are trying to be for someone else.
right. No, I agree. Now, in your coaching, I don't know, have you come across where one individual, it could be in a relationship or in a family dynamic, have you come across where one person just doesn't want to do the work, just believes that there's nothing wrong with them, and they're like, nope, that person needs to do the work. I'm fine. I don't want any part of this. Have you come across anything like that?
Well, very often. Very often.
Okay.
No,
How do you get the other person that doesn't want to like, be in the whole dynamic of the whole communication coaching idea? How do you get them to maybe get curious, maybe say, okay, fine, I'll try it? Maybe what technique do you use to kind of say, okay, come here, you're gonna be here with us, you're gonna at least listen? What is your technique?
we already talked about it, and it's about setting the right intention. When you don't attack the other person, saying
Mm-hmm.
we need to talk, because I had to do with people who thought I have done nothing wrong, I've
Yeah,
done everything right, and everybody is just ingrate, just not
yeah, yeah.
grateful. I have dealt with this person, with these people, with these clients extensively. So what you can do is, first of all, set the intention. Um, there is a problem, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because we can all agree that this is not the ideal situation.
Mm-hmm.
We are struggling. This is something that we can all agree, unless the person in front of you
Yeah,
is
but what
facing
what
like a
happens if they say, I don't care if we're setting this intention. I still believe that with intention or not, I didn't do nothing wrong. And what about if they walk off? What about if they leave? Has that ever happened where they just said, you know what, I don't care about this intention. I don't, go fix the person that brought me here. Fine. And they leave. Has that scenario kind of happened?
Yeah, absolutely. It's it always when you have to deal with someone like this, they always say, I shouldn't be here. If you have a problem, the person who wanted to do this, you should fix the problem yourself. We are dealing with a person who is in denial. So one way to go about it is
Mm-hmm.
that, you know, when you are talking to this person, you set the positive intention and you say, like, of course, I'm going through all these issues. I am feeling them. Um, and I probably have done things that hurt you. You know, the person, if this kind of person will be, yes, of course,
Mm-hmm.
but I need your help to overcome these problems. You can put it in this way. And
Okay.
it's true, you're not tricking the other person because whenever you want to solve a relationship issue or a family issue, you need the help of the person in front of you. You cannot do it, on your own. You need the help.
It's difficult. Yeah.
So you change the perspective and you're like, we are not trying to fix you. We
Mm.
are not trying to
So you take accountability
maintain.
for yourself.
Yes.
So you just take that accountability for you and tell the person, okay, don't worry about you. I just need you to be right here, but I'm going to take accountability for what I need to take accountability
Exactly, which is
for. Okay.
anyhow what I suggested to everyone. You need to take accountability. You need to realize that you contributed to this situation. Just that person is not there yet. But at least this person is going to be on the table and with a lot of work, this person indirectly we start realizing there are things that I have done. There are things because one of the messages, a very important message that I teach to my clients is that many times we hurt the people in our relationships without knowing it. We might just say something, we might just do something that we believe has no meaning,
Mm-hmm.
but that it hurts the person in front of us. And why is that? It's because, again, we come from different life experiences, and someone who has been traumatized might associate that trauma to, for example, certain situations, certain objects, certain topics. So, if, for example, you start really talking about that topic that is linked with a traumatic experience for a person in
Mm-hmm.
your relationship, and you don't even know that, you are hurting this person. So, in this case, when I deal with this kind of person who doesn't want to admit fault, that is very, very difficult to deal with, I explain to this person that it's very easy to hurt the people in front of us without knowing and
Yeah.
without having the intention of doing it.
Right.
In with this perspective, usually, this typology of person will often, at least with my clients, I saw that this person would admit, okay, I have done that. I recognize that it hurt you, but I never meant
Mm.
to hurt you.
Okay.
And the next step, which is one of, again, a very crucial one, is that I try to bring this person to apologize for unconsciously hurting this person, you
Okay.
know? And here a lot of healing can happen. Because
Mm,
if the person is willing to say, okay, I hurt you and I'm sorry,
that's powerful.
this is the goal.
Yeah.
This is what changes relationships and changes lives. And, in my experience, I tell this person, like, you have hurt this person without knowing with this and this action. Okay. So now that you know that with this action you hurt this person, what do you want to do about it? And they tell me, I don't want to do this action anymore because, of course, I don't want to hurt this person. So, it's not for everyone the same path to
Right.
communication and to improvement. There are people who might have faced huge traumas in their life, and admitting that they voluntarily did
Hmm.
something to hurt the other person might be too difficult. But the
Yeah.
point is that about recognizing that your actions hurt someone and to apologize for that and to correct that behavior.
Mm,
On the other side, it's very important to exercise a lot of compassion.
mm,
This is a
yeah.
part, of healing, because when you're compassionate about the other person, you start seeing them in a different light. You start seeing them as, like people who are suffering rather than people who have offended you, who have hurt you. And you start seeing that they actually didn't mean it. It's
Right.
just their own struggles, their own traumas
Mm,
are making them act in this way. And this is a profound shift in perspective.
that's beautiful. I love your techniques. They resonate a lot with me, and with again the things that I am now kind of learning, but more confirming and adding more extra tools with the Kabbalah teachings. It's pretty much learning to take that accountability for the things you've done, learning that every time there's some sort of challenge or darkness or anything that's presented is for us to be able to learn something, to shift something, to correct our soul's path. That's the only reason why the darkness and all these hard times and all these traumas and all these things that we go through is for us to evolve, for us to become better people, for us to correct our soul's journey, and ask more questions and get more curious and to start healing. My understanding of these teachings, they say that we do come into this world with all these different traumas, with all these, there are even ancestral traumas too that you
Mhm.
energetically bring in, and you come in with darkness, and the purpose of coming in with this darkness is to be able to transform it, transmute it, and turn it into light and plug into that light of that creator. So it's kind of difficult because we haven't been taught those things. We've been so programmed to always blame everybody else and go outside of ourselves. And even in religion, they teach you how you need to go somewhere to find God instead of inwards. Everything's always internally, is always go inwards to find any answers. So a lot of these teachings are just giving me that confirmation again, that yeah, I'm on the right path, and this is so much easier understanding these guides and these rules and these tools and these techniques, that if we would have had them from I mean, they've existed from the beginning of human evolution, but
Mhm.
they've never really been kind of taught to us, like we never went to a school for it. We just been kind of doing the best we can with what we've known, with what our parents and their parents have taught them. And now it's our job to kind of like undo all the things that have been done, and kind of correct that, and then be able to be happy, because at the end result is just be happy and be joyful and be in our hearts and come from love all the time. That's the end result. So I want to know, what are some key takeaways that you like listeners to remember about improving communication in your relationship? In relationship, sorry.
Well, absolutely. Um, there are so many. I would say that the most important takeaway is that in relationships, you need to change perspective. You need to start listening to the person in front of you. You need to put aside your desire to be right and you need to choose to be happy. You need to understand that the other person comes from a different situation and that you don't have all the pieces of the puzzles, because many times we get angry or upset towards someone simply because we don't understand what's happening with them, and
Mhm.
we base these judgments on our own experience. We base our judgments on our own experience, and we say like this shouldn't happen instead of trying to understand what's going on. Exercise compassion. Compassion, like communication, is a muscle. You don't know what the person in front of you went through. Research, for example, now has been demonstrating, that a stressful birth, can have significant effects on the nervous system
Mhm.
of the child, and this can lead to several issues and challenges for the child. And so when you see someone that is struggling, instead of assuming
Mhm.
that you know everything, put yourself into the beginner's mindset and really try to understand what's going on. um, then change the intention with which you approach your relationship. Shift from, wanting to be right or to live up to a certain standard. Be more understanding, be a listener. Try to give the person in front of you space. Make it your number one priority to make the person in front of you feel safe and heard.
That's beautiful. That's
This
powerful. Yeah, that's very, very powerful.
And I'm telling you, I see so many beautiful relationships falling apart because of, wrong assumptions, because of the inability of communicating. Most of the communication problems, they stem from a lack of understanding of the other person.
Mm.
But with healthy communication, you start learning about the other person. You know you start putting lights on what you didn't know, and from there the relationship can really grow.
Right.
And it's really powerful because nowadays we see lots of problems with mental health.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's another podcast there. That's another podcast for sure.
Mental health is extremely important.
Hmm.
And the way that I see communication benefiting mental health is that by creating a safe space in your family or in your relationship, you have someone that you can endlessly talk to about your problems, who has learned how to listen, and who is now working with you to solve your issues. That doesn't mean that this can, replace life coach, psychologist, psychiatrist.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that. But from moving from, family in which you don't feel heard, no one listens to you, you cannot talk about your problems because otherwise someone is going to tell you that you're stupid.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you move to a place like I did, in which I have a family, in which now I can tell everything. I can tell them about all the struggles. Having their, support is extremely
Important.
beneficial, because when
Yeah.
you feel supported, by your family in your relationship, that gives you, you know, lots of energy, lots of power,
Mm-hmm.
and just knowing that there is someone there, like you are facing a difficult day,
Mm-hmm.
at work. It makes all the difference in the world knowing that when you go home, there is someone who can listen to you and understand
Yeah.
you, whether it's your family or your partner.
Yeah, or
And
a friend, or anyone, a coworker,
anyone,
anyone. Yeah.
absolutely.
So I thank you for that. We are at the end of our show. I know that you are set on a time, so I wanted to be mindful of you. I have two more questions, and then the end of the show part, and we'll go from there. So my next question is very simple: how can individuals interested in your services get in touch with you and learn more about your work?
Absolutely. You can get to know me more on my website, edoardoguidali.com. There you can find all the information about how these meetings work. We do that online. You can have group sessions of 1 hour or 2 hours. You can visit my social medias on Instagram, TikTok. And I would also like to add that I understand how difficult it can be to start this journey,
Mm,
to find the strength, to get the support from a stranger, a professional, and to embark upon this journey. I can understand that there can be lots of fears, lots of doubts, and this is why from very recently I'm proposing a pay only if you're satisfied method, because I want to encourage people, everyone, to come to give it a try, because I know that the skepticism can be very high,
yeah.
and I'm so confident that healthy communication can benefit you, that I have no doubt that you will find value into it. But anyhow, there is no risk in it, so you can just come, you can have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 session, and if you're not satisfied, I'm not going to charge you anything. Also, this is very important for me because I want you to be happy. So if you're not happy, I'm also not happy and I don't want to charge you. But
Right.
this is something that I have been proposing lately for all the people that are struggling with making the first step.
That's beautiful. Now, do you have any upcoming workshops or events you'd like to share with the audience? Anything new that might be coming up in the next few months or year?
Well, basically, right now I'm just taking single clients, so families and relationships. I would like to make workshops, but that's more an idea for the future.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, we'll tap into that as the time passes and those workshops and events come. I would love to dive into more of mental health in the next podcast if you're up for it. I think that mental health is it's something that we really need to hone in on.
Absolutely.
I'm huge on it. I know that I went through my portion of depression, anxiety, and panic attacks, and I had to overcome them on my own with no help. I had to go really deep, deep into shadow work and all kinds of stuff and learning how to heal my own self because I couldn't find any answers in doctors or anyone. So I appreciate your work and it's been fun having this conversation with you. And I want to extend a heart thank you to you as our guest for sharing your insights and experiences. Thank you.